My name is Kemi Wells and I'm the Director of Business Development at North South Travel. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us this evening. And this is our third event in the North South Virtual Travel Dreaming Series, the virtual editions. On behalf of myself and everyone in the North South Travel team, it's our pleasure to bring to you tonight this event exploring the fabulous polar regions with our friends at Ponant Yacht Cruises and Quark Expeditions. Just letting the last few people in now, one moment. So we know travel options are limited these days, but we felt it was really important to ensure our clients could still keep dreaming about travel and have things on your mind, on your wish list and your planning list for the future. So we are so glad that so many of you have chosen to come and join us this evening. And one blessing of what's going on is it's made us all a bit more technological savvy and being able to bring virtual events to you so that you can be in the comfort of your own home, and then we can still bring these educational and hopefully inspiring events your way. We have tonight Ellen, who's in Portland, and Cara, who's in Toronto, which we should know is gone 10 o'clock now. So thank you, Cara, for staying up to host this for our lovely clients. So without further ado, I'd like to pass the presentation over to you both, starting with a little introduction. So over to you, Cara.
Well, that's great. Thanks so much, Kemi, for having me. And it's such a pleasure to be with all of you this late in the evening. I get so excited talking about polar travel and travel in general. So thank you so much for gathering virtually this evening with Kemi this evening and us. So my name is Cara Matthew. I'm one of the business development managers with Quark Expeditions. And I've been working for Quark Expeditions for almost 12 years now. I really do love the polar regions and exploring. I went to the North Pole for the first time in 2010, right into the heart of the Arctic, and I fell in love with these really remote places of the planet. So I'm looking forward to sharing some stories with you this evening, and I'm delighted to be here with Ellen. So thanks so much, and we'll talk to you soon. I'll pass it over to Ellen to start with the Antarctic.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Cara, and thank you, Kemi, for this opportunity to talk about Antarctica and the Arctic North. Really two of my very favorite travel experiences in my life. So I'm Ellen McIlvaine. I'm the Director of Business Development with Ponant, Yacht Cruises and Expeditions. I've been in the expedition travel industry for about 10 years as well, and I joined Ponant about 3 years ago. So I'm really excited to share with you a little bit about one of my favorite places, and I'll just jump right in about Antarctica. So if you're here tonight, and it looks like we have a wonderful turnout, so thank you so much for spending time with us. I assume you have some interest in these polar expeditions and expedition cruising, and I'll just say, good for you. You honestly really should. It's truly spectacular. It's spectacular that we can even go there, and Antarctica is always a travel experience that I feel like it really changes people, or it leaves people with some fantastic memories, and is always in the top travel experience, at least top 2 or 3 of people's lives. So I've been fortunate to go to Antarctica twice. First time I went was in 2015. I was part of an expedition team working on expedition ships like the companies that Cara and I both work for now. And this past February, I went with Ponant as a guest, and I took my mom. I was just absolutely the most spectacular experience. And I'll say this, Antarctica delivers. So I've sold a lot of trips to Antarctica. I've helped people get ready for a lot of trips. Nobody's ever come back and said to me like, wow, I wish I hadn't gone there. It's everybody who goes is glad that they went. So if you think you might even be a little bit interested, I encourage you to just go for it. It's unlike anything else you'll experience in your entire life. It's a travel experience unlike anything else. So Antarctica is often regarded as the last great wilderness on our planet. It's truly pristine and just teeming with wildlife, and just absolutely fantastic landscapes that show really, really little evidence of human activity. Part of the reason that it's so pristine and the wildlife is so abundant is because of the Antarctic Treaty. It was signed on December 1st, 1959 in Washington, D.C., and it designates the entire continent as a nature reserve. And in the treaty, it says it's devoted to peace and science, which I absolutely love. And that treaty has been agreed to by nearly 50 countries. So that's why Antarctica remains today this place unlike anywhere else, because we as a planet have decided that it should be left alone. So we'll take a look here at where is it? I mean, we all know where it is, but so it's a continent on the South Pole, and it is land, and it's about 14.2 million square kilometers. So that's roughly half the size of Africa or 2 Australia. So it's massive. It's really massive. But when we're talking about expedition cruising, really what we're going to, or generally 95+% of the trips that go there are going to be focused on the Antarctic Peninsula. So it's that piece that juts up from Antarctica, reaches towards South America. And the distance between the southern tip of South America and the Antarctic Peninsula is about 1,000 kilometers. So it's not that far. And in general, most of the expedition cruises will start right there on the southern tip of Antarctica in a town called Ushuaia. So there's a lot out there. The word is out. Everybody knows that Antarctica is like just an amazing experience. So there's a lot of different options. Probably the most common itinerary that you'll see is out of Ushuaia, straight down to the Antarctic Peninsula. Generally, that trip is 10 days, but there are other itineraries that have other benefits that will go to places like South Georgia, which you see there on the map, the Falkland Islands, and often to the South Orkney Islands. So when you're working to start your cruise, to embark on your ship, which most of the time will embark in Ushuaia. There are some itineraries that will maybe come from Montevideo or a few other places, but generally you'll be in Ushuaia. You'll usually fly through Buenos Aires and then get another flight from Buenos Aires to Ushuaia. That's about 3.5 hours for that flight. Ponant includes that flight. We charter the flight and include it as part of your expedition. Some companies do, some don't. Either way, your north-south travel advisor is going to get you there comfortably and easily, and then you'll embark your ship likely in Ushuaia. There, of course, is another option, which are the fly cruises. Ponant, the company I work for, doesn't offer these, but Kara's company Quark does, which is a shorter itinerary, and so you can fly and join a ship that's waiting for you in Antarctica. So that's a lot of options of how to go. And certainly anything you choose, you're going to absolutely love it. But why are we going? Let's talk about what are we going to see there. So penguins, obviously, people are really keen to see penguins. It's what we think about when we think about Antarctica. It's like, oh, I got to go see the penguins. And you will see them. So don't worry about that. You will definitely see them. And it is such a joy. I also will mention, if you're going to see the wildlife, really make sure that you go on a ship that's going to have fewer than 200 people, because you want to get off the ship as much as possible. And Kara and I can both tell you, Antarctica doesn't sound the same from a ship's deck. It doesn't smell the same. It doesn't look the same from on board the ship. You really want to be there and set foot on the continent or on these islands or be in the Zodiac and have those experiences with wildlife. So penguins are abundant. So these all look like king penguins, which you would see in South Georgia, maybe also in the Falkland Islands as well. But certainly on the Antarctic continent, you'll also see gentoo penguins, adelies, possibly Magellanic, rockhoppers, macaroni penguins. There's a whole bunch of different varieties of penguins that the expedition teams will teach you about, and you'll really enjoy learning and seeing, learning about them and seeing them. They're so funny. Like, they look like just little people walking around. They are so funny, and they're just a joyful animals to observe and be around. So it's absolutely wonderful. This picture is from South Georgia. So there are colonies. I think this is Brown Bluff, or no, I forget the name of this stop, but it's in South Georgia, where there are over 500 individual birds in one colony in South Georgia, and these are king penguins. So you see the brown ones that are kind of like grouped together. Those are the babies. They're like fluffy and brown. They're quite big as well. They're sort of, they're so cute. But the adults keep all the, they call them like the rookery, but all of the young ones together to defend them from predators like the skua birds. And so they'll put all their babies in a pile, and then the parents will go out and fish for krill and get food, and then come back and somehow find their chick and feed it. And the sound coming off of a visit like this is something you absolutely will not forget. So Antarctica is going to deliver for sure. But there are other highlights too. So seabirds are a huge highlight. And you'll see these from the ship. You'll see them possibly nesting seabirds, Falkland Islands in South Georgia. You can potentially see that. A few places in Antarctica, maybe on your Zodiac cruises as well. The large photo here is a black-browed albatross. When you see them flying, it's like a plane. They're massive. The upper right is a sooty albatross, one of the most beautiful birds, I think, and you'll see the blue-eyed shag or imperial cormorants as well. So other birds too, giant petrels, terns, whole lot of seabirds, and there will certainly be an ornithologist on board who's, if you're not a birder before you go to Antarctica, you're going to come back a birder, and you'll be birding for the rest of your life. So, you know, I hope that doesn't deter you. You're going to be a super nerd when you come back, but it really is such a joy to learn about these birds. So of course, there are also mammals there. Seals are a huge part of your experience, and they're so many, they're so cute. Just a lot of different varieties of seals. You'll see them from the zodiacs, you'll see them when you're walking around, you'll see them swimming in the water. And so in Antarctica, the time that we go, it's summer there. So all of these animals are congregating to feed, to mate, to like build up all of their sustenance before the Antarctic winter. So there's a lot of activity happening, and certainly finding the seals and seeing them is really quite a joy as well. Another huge highlight, and for me, this is what I come back remembering, are the whales and marine mammals. So I find, like, when people think about going to Antarctica, they're like, oh, okay, I'm going to see penguins. And then when they come back, they want to tell me about their encounters with whales. So we all go, we know we're going to see penguins. That's what we identify with Antarctica. And then the whales just are so incredible. So there's tons of whales down there. They go down during this time of year to feed on krill as well. And so you'll see, I can't say you're guaranteed to see, but you're probably, touch wood, you're basically are with humpback whales. There's also fin whales, minke whales, orcas, killer whales, southern right whales, sei whales, sperm whales, and you may even see a blue whale if you're lucky. I have not seen a blue whale yet, so I got to go back. And these photos, which of course they're so beautiful here. We can see the killer whale, the beautiful fluke of the humpback breaching. And this lower right photo, this was a humpback swimming up to check out the zodiac. And that's how clear the water is. It's absolutely spectacular. And that was taken by a guest on the trip that I was on. So it's absolutely amazing. And I think just the abundance of whales in Antarctica is something that I wasn't expecting the first time that I went. And on the Ponant ship, we have a gym, and I was like walking on the treadmill one day and trying to get some exercise. And I'm looking out through the window, and I think I saw like 10 whales just jumping, and, you know, just while we're cruising to our next place. So the whales are absolutely a highlight. And of course, the ice. We all want to see the ice. We want to experience this. And I think, like, when I first went to Antarctica, my friends were saying, like, you know, why? Or if I tell people it's my favorite place, well, everybody has this idea that it's this stark, lonely, desolate white continent, and why would you want to go there? It sounds so barren. And it's not. It's absolutely the opposite. It is so colorful. The ice is so colorful. The sea is so colorful. It's absolutely amazing. Like, hues in the icebergs and the glaciers, from white to green to teal, all the way to purple. It's stunning. It's absolutely stunning. And of course, you get amazing sunsets and sunrises in Antarctica as well. So if you have this idea that you might feel vast and lonely, you certainly won't feel lonely because they're going to be crowded with animals. Here's another picture of a sunset and a Zodiac cruise where guests are viewing and looking at an iceberg. And I took that picture with my phone. So this is not professional. I'm not a professional photographer by any means. I took that with my iPhone. So if I can get that kind of photo, you certainly can too. Another highlight is history, of course. So this is a photo of Grytviken on South Georgia. This is the cemetery. The grave of Ernest Shackleton is there, so of the Endurance. And that's a really interesting part to learn. And what kind of makes an expedition cruise different than a general cruise somewhere is you do have these guides on board, you have experts on board who are really going to help you understand the story of the Endurance and the other Antarctic explorers. And so if you do go to South Georgia and you visit Grytviken, if you're on an itinerary that includes that, you'll have more of an understanding of what it means to be there and to sort of witness. We get to go so comfortably now in these beautiful ships, and to think, what Shackleton and his team went through is it's quite a profound thing to learn about. So that education as well as adventure activities, that's what makes something an expedition. So both Ponant and Quark, we are expedition cruise companies. So you're getting off the ship at least twice a day. You're going to have lectures throughout the voyage, and you're going to have daily recaps from your expedition team and briefings from your expedition team. So recaps are like little mini lectures about, oh, did you see this archaeological site? We're going to tell you about it. Or, oh, we saw this penguin today. I'm going to educate you on this. Or maybe look out for a whale behaving this way. This is what it means. So you'll have these sort of little mini lectures from your team each evening, as well as a briefing from your expedition leader about what's going to go on the next day.
Ellen, I really love that you are talking about expedition and the word expedition, because in Antarctica, when I was with my 66-year-old aunt in February, we were supposed to go out on a landing that morning, and we were in a bay with a humpback whale and her calf, with the calf just swimming underneath the Zodiac. So I love that you're really sharing the word expedition and what that means. Like, there's something for everyone still in expedition, and every moment is so thrilling and new and neat.
Yeah, it really is. And that's the other part of it. That's a really good point, Kara, is like the team is so flexible. So they will make the most if there are, if there's a pod of whales, even though we're supposed to be somewhere per our itinerary later that afternoon, forget about it. We're going to get everybody into the Zodiacs and go experience the whales, or we're going to offer an extra Zodiac cruise, or the itinerary is quite flexible because wildlife you cannot plan. And the whole point of going is to learn about our beautiful planet and experience it. And the teams work so hard to do that for you. So then there's all these other activities. Ponant also offers kayaking, and another thing that you can look forward to are hikes. So hikes will be offered to a variety of abilities. I get this question a lot of, do I need to be super fit to go to Antarctica? No, you do not. If you can get in and out of Zodiac, you're fine, because all the wildlife is like right there on the shore. You don't have to go for a hike. The colonies and the animals are like, you don't have to go far to find it. We'll drop you off right where it is. But of course, we want to do some hiking. We'll offer different lengths of hikes for different levels of abilities as well. And I took this picture with my phone. My mom and I did this hike. She's 69 and had a knee replacement earlier in the year, and she did it just fine. So most of us can. So I'll just share quickly. Did you have anything to say, Kara? No, you're good. Okay. So I'll share quickly about some of my favorite memories and then pass it over to Kara. And so this picture is from a Zodiac cruise, and I'm just telling you, this is how close you can possibly be with the whales. And it's not just that you're looking at them right there. They're looking at you. They are beings. They look at you. You feel like you're being watched by them, but you hear them breathing. You smell like their whale breath. I mean, they're so close to you, and they're so curious. And it's really very humbling. to be so close to whales. So that was a memory that I cherish. Another one was this sunny day, and this is on the continent. This was last February when we had to take off our parkas. It was so warm. And just like, look at this. Again, we went for a little hike and just had the most beautiful, beautiful day. And this, here's my mom, and me on our balcony. And this was a day that we were at sea most of the day, but we still had such a great day because this was the sunrise over these mountains, and the captain got on the PA and he said, you know, if you're in bed, you should get up because this is the most beautiful day of your life. What are you doing? Get up. And so we went outside and we saw the sunrise, and I watched as we sailed through the Lemaire Channel, just so many whales, penguins, seals, animals, while I was having a glass of champagne because why not? And then for dinner, we decided to have room service and sat on our balcony, and we kept, I'm holding a pen, not a cigarette. It looks like a cigarette, it's a pen. But we did our own little survey of how many whales we saw just during dinner time on our balcony while we had our meal, and just had a glass of wine and whale watch. So it's all around you all of the time. It's not like this is an excursion. You're gonna go see animals right now. It's all around you. It's so abundant. It's seriously, if you want to go at all, you should go. So I'll finish the Antarctic recap with this on kind of the best time of year to go. And the season is November through March generally. And you can see from this graph why January is like late December through early February is probably the most popular time to go. But really, there's no bad time. There's really no bad time to go. Later in the season, you're going to get more whales. Earlier in the season, you're going to get more action from the seals. The penguin chicks hatch about in December. So that's, of course, very adorable to see as well. And they fledge the nest about, or fledge the colonies about mid-late February. So can give you an idea of maybe when you would like to go. So that's it for Antarctica. I hope I didn't go too long. Oh, I have to stop my screen share, sorry.
No, Ellen, now you're making me want to go back again. And you've inspired me with the whale breath, and it just captured exactly Antarctica with your storytelling. And so now that Ellen had been sharing stories of Antarctica, the Arctic actually picks up where Antarctica leaves off. And so with Ellen talking about how we're going to Antarctica in the heart of their summer, we're going to the Arctic in our North American summer. So the Arctic is so vast. So now that we've done the bottom of the world, I'm going to take you to the top of the world, to the Arctic. And what's amazing about Antarctica, it's a landmass surrounded by water. And like Ellen was saying, how large that continent is, the Arctic is water surrounded by so many different countries. And so basically it spans, like even Greenland is included in the Arctic, Finland, Iceland, Norway, Russia, Sweden, and even the United States, where Ellen is in the US, right? Ellen, you're in the US. So it's amazing how much the Arctic encompasses, which is what I think keeps calling people to keep going back. So there is a season just like Antarctica when we travel to the Arctic. So the Arctic season is the end of April to the beginning of October. So it does indeed pick up where Antarctica leaves off. So there's so many things to explore in our North American summer months. But I want to share with you a little bit about the North Pole, because Ponant, as well as Quark Expeditions, we both travel to the North Pole. And so I wanted to share with you an experience, because we have been going to the North Pole since 1991. And the North Pole is incredible because it's the geographic North Pole that we're actually traveling to. And it's quite an expedition. And you can actually stand on top of the world and walk around. So I was on this trip in 2010. It was my first expedition to the polar regions. And what was neat is this particular ship, our 50 Years of Victory vessel, this is one of the ships in our fleet. I was actually proposed to under the midnight sun by my now husband. So on the bow of the 50 Years of Victory, this particular vessel, he ended up proposing back in 2010, which was quite a memory that we could all celebrate on board. But that's part of the beauty of the Arctic is the hours of daylight. So we were indeed in July and August in under the midnight sun 24 hours a day. But what can you see and do en route to the North Pole? I loved seeing polar bears. There were even mothers with her cubs. Opportunities of seeing walrus. So lots to see and do on the way to the North Pole on these journeys. But with Quark Expeditions, there's opportunities for hot air ballooning at the top of the world, but we also set up a phone call. So who would you call if you were on the North Pole and you had one phone call to make? But a commonly asked question I get, and Ellen too, is, well, can we see Santa Claus when we go there to the North Pole? I'd really like to see Santa Claus. And so although we have barbecues on the ice or polar plunge in minus 2.5 degrees Celsius water in the Arctic Ocean, one of the things we won't see is Santa Claus. I do say he's fishing off the coast of Norway at this time because we are going in the heart of our North American summer. So he's on holidays. But that is something fun that people usually ask. So in case of inquiring minds want to know about Santa Claus. But since Ellen was talking so much about wildlife in Antarctica, Spitsbergen is usually on people's radar in the Arctic because it is known as the realm of the polar bear. It really is the wildlife capital of the Arctic. And so I love maps, and just Spitsbergen is in the heart of the Arctic Circle. So Spitsbergen is the main island of an archipelago of islands called Svalbard. And both our trips, we go from Norway, the actual mainland town in Oslo, the city of Oslo, and we fly up to Longyearbyen. And then you'll embark your vessel, generally speaking, in Longyearbyen for Spitsbergen trips. And so this archipelago of islands is known to have more polar bears than people that live in this archipelago of islands. So there are over 3,000 polar bears in this area. And what I love about a fun fact about Longyearbyen is it's actually the most northerly town in the planet. So maybe later on, if you have a Trivial Pursuit question, you might get that one. But a lot of people travel to Spitsbergen to see the polar bear because it is the realm of the polar bear. And I know I'm from Canada. I love going, Manitoba and going to Churchill and having those wonderful polar bear experiences. But there's nothing like seeing the polar bear from a small vessel or the safety of a small rubber boat, those Zodiacs that Ellen was showing earlier, and seeing these bears even out on the sea ice. It's the largest carnivore on the planet, very magical experiences. And a year ago in July of 2019, I actually had an experience where we were interrupted our lunch, and our expedition leader quietly came on the speaker on the inside of the ship and said, everyone, I encourage you to get out on the deck. The chef will keep our lunch hot, but there is a male bear out on the sea ice. So all of us quietly went out onto the deck, and we were out there for about 4 hours witnessing this male bear. He was quite a large bear, so our polar bear specialist was saying that it was a well-fed bear. But we realized that this polar bear was actually stalking and hunting this seal out on the sea ice. So the tensions build when everyone figured out what was going on, and half the ship was going for the polar bear, half the ship was rooting for the seal to survive and get away. And the polar bear charged at the seal, and the seal at the last minute dipped into the water and did get away off of the ice floe from the polar bear. So exciting moments of even seeing the polar bears hunting in this region of the world. And with polar bears, fun facts too, because an adult polar bear, which I didn't realize until our polar bear specialist mentioned this through some educational programs on board, but a polar bear can eat over 100 pounds of blubber in a single seating, which is incredible. But there's more wildlife. The polar bear definitely is a highlight, and people do see polar bears in this region, and they can vary any amount to bears. Some trips have seen 3 bears, some 18, just depending on the trip and this time of year and the length of the voyage. But also, Ellen was talking about birds earlier, and there's so many different types of birds. So we do have ornithologists on board. And so if you are a bird watcher, you could see Arctic terns and skuas and long-tailed ducks. And it was funny because Ellen and I were talking about terns, and it's incredible that the Arctic tern flies longer than any other bird, because it goes from the Arctic for the summer in the Arctic, and it flies down to Antarctica for the Antarctic summer. So this bird does so many miles year over year to spend the summer in each destination. But the walrus is really funny because you can usually smell them before you can see the walrus. So you can see generally walrus on the ice floes, but there's also walrus haulouts. So in Spitsbergen, it is known to see a large walrus haulout or a small one. So you're always standing in safe proximity from these creatures. There's always regulations of how far we can be from any type of wildlife. But the walrus are so funny to watch and maneuver around and sleep and scratch their ears. So the walrus was definitely a highlight for me in Spitsbergen, amongst many other things. Scenery is something I don't talk about enough in the areas in which we visit, but the scenery, just like Ellen was showing pictures of South Georgia and the Falkland Islands and Antarctica, the scenery in the Arctic is spectacular, and Spitsbergen is just beautiful. But the best times to go to Spitsbergen is May, June, and July is when we both travel there. Greenland was never on my list of places to visit. I will tell you that until 2016, I was not on my radar, but I'm so glad I went. It's the largest island on the planet and home to the longest fjord systems in the world. So if you're a cruiser, maybe you've cruised Alaska and have enjoyed those types of trips. Greenland is so beautiful with that next step of glaciers and mountain ranges and beautiful fjords. So I love maneuvering in the east portion of Greenland. So I now have to go back to the west portion and the south because there's just so much to see and do in Greenland alone. But the actual scenery, it boasts some of the most impressive ice scapes floating on the water, but also gorgeous glaciers as well. But community visits is a highlight of Greenland. And I went into Itakormarit, this little town in Greenland. I even tried some local meat, some muskoxen meat, and saw some beaded work. But West Greenland is gorgeous as well, home to archaeological sites. So if you're really into history, not only the local Greenlandic people who are living there now, but there's also great history of the Thule people. So it's wonderful that for over 3,500 years, the Arctic has been inhabited by people. So it's wonderful to see the remains as well in some of these heritage sites. I'm a really big hiker, but I loved what Ellen said too. If you're more of a contemplative walker, there's something for every type of range of mobility. So if you're really into long hiking and really enjoy walking around, that's an option for you. But if you want to stay around shore and simply be with the ornithologist or the historian walking around and doing some contemplative walks, that's fine too. There's a little something for everyone for activity. Muskoxen. Who here knows what the muskoxen is related to? I highly recommend putting it in the chat functionality and even make a wild guess, because I was in our lounge in the bar with the marine biologist, and the biologist happened to share information about the muskoxen. And it is actually related to the sheep, because I put my hand up eagerly thinking I knew the answer, and I said buffalo, and I was wrong in front of the small people in the bar and lounge. So the muskoxen is incredible in Greenland. You can see them in Canadian high Arctic as well. But the muskoxen fur, I don't know if I have any knitters on the line. I am not a knitter, but any of you who are gathered here this evening, the muskoxen wool is so incredibly soft. And I loved going, I was in Whistler one time, and I did go into a gift shop, and I saw some lovely headbands and toques that were made from the muskoxen wool, and I can't believe how soft it is. So it's a very amazing wool that can be used to knit. But in Greenland, the wildlife in the Arctic in general actually really does need to be found. Whereas in the Antarctic, when you get out of the zodiacs, as Ellen was describing, there's wildlife everywhere. Penguins are coming up to you, and it's just an amazing experience for wildlife. But the Arctic, it does need to be a bit more of an adventure to find the wildlife. So on one of my excursions in East Greenland, an Arctic fox actually came out of its den, but it was because our expedition team member said, let's all get quiet and sit here for about 10 minutes of silence. And because you're in small groups of 10 and 12 people, I was quite surprised at how everyone was quite quiet. And I was able to sneak this picture at my side with my camera because I didn't want to scare the fox. And this fox came right out of its den. So it was such a neat experience when you actually find little creatures in the Arctic. And a feature of every trip with Quark Expeditions is the polar plunge. So I thought I'd share with you this evening my polar plunge experience in East Greenland in Herefjord. And it was very, very cold, but it was nice jumping in the sauna afterwards. They have these in spas now, the cold pool plunges after you do your hot and your sauna. So I loved being able to just do it and say that I did it once. But people who don't do it have just as much fun watching from the comfort of the vessel. And a special thing that happens in Greenland as well is the Northern Lights. So there is possibilities of seeing Northern Lights, especially at the end of August and September in Greenland. The wondrous show of the dancing lights can occur all year round in Greenland, but at the end of August and September, the sun's setting around 9 or 10 p.m. at night. So around 1 or 2 when it's complete darkness, more often than not, an expedition team leader will come on the loudspeaker encouraging people to get out either on their private balconies or get out on deck. And on my East Greenland experience, it was indeed about 1 or 2 in the morning, and I had never seen the Northern Lights. So when I got the announcement, I had my fleece pajama bottoms on. So I did put my parka on, but I forgot that I was in my fleece pajamas. So I looked down and thought, oh my goodness, thank goodness it's so dark out and everyone's looking up at the sky so no one can see my wine-glassed fleece pajamas on my bottoms. But the Greenland is an amazing place to see the Northern Lights because there's no light pollution. There is nothing around. So the best time to go to Greenland is August, September, and early October, but there are trips in July as well, especially with some of those Northwest Passage trips. Speaking of the Northwest Passage, I did want to mention the Canadian Arctic because Ponant and Quark Expedition both traveled to these beautiful places of the Canadian High Arctic. And I often do hear what can I see and do in the Canadian Arctic. And I really feel like there's no better time than now to start traveling within Canada if we're living in this beautiful country, north, south, east, west. This country is so beautiful. So I highly encourage people to inquire about the journeys in the Canadian Arctic, because if you're seeking, you know, the vastness and purity of glacier-topped mountains and even the history and following in the footsteps of legendary explorers like Franklin with Franklin's shipwreck, these are definitely places to discover, because with Franklin's, in the footsteps of Franklin trips, you can go to places like Beechy Island, and a beautiful place like Beechy Island. There's even opportunities to see beluga whales in this area. But even, you know, Ellen has a really great favorite memory, and I'd love, Ellen, a story that you did share with me that I absolutely loved.
Yeah, and thanks for including my pictures in your presentation. I appreciate it. So yeah, I did the Northwest Passage and had this day on Beechy Island. We were late in the season. It was, I think, 2016 that I did it. And we got out, it was just totally frozen, dark seeming, and felt a little like, I don't know, just desolate. And slowly the day started to warm up, and just in true Arctic experience, first came this beautiful rainbow. And we, it's a historic place to visit, but there wasn't a ton of signs of life. And I stepped on something a little crunchy and I picked it up, and there was this beautiful moss garden that had grown inside. It was a seal skull. And I showed it to the naturalist, and she said, yeah, this is amazing that you saw this here. It's been so perfectly sheltered. And that's just so like the quintessential Arctic experience, for like you were saying about your day with the fox, where in Antarctica, you're not going to miss it. Trust me, you're not going to miss it. And in the Arctic, it's this more sort of, I love to use the word contemplative, like experience in the Arctic, and kind of searching for wildlife and beauty. It's just absolutely amazing.
I love that, Ellen, because it's all part of the mystery. And with Ellen's experience in Beach Island, because I've never been to Beach Island, but Beach Island is actually on Devon Island. So I wanted to also share areas like Radstock Bay that we can also go to, and beautiful Baffin Island, Samford Fjord, Ice Fjord. And I wanted to keep this picture in here of Samford Fjord because just to see the small little ships in these regions of the Canadian High Arctic is just beautiful. And not to mention beautiful community visits, going into these communities like in Arctic Bay on Baffin Island. And what I love is how, connected we are with these communities in the Canadian High Arctic. And not to mention amazing history and beautiful scenery, but also the beluga whales, as I mentioned, possibilities of beluga whales, possibility of narwhals. One of my colleagues did see a narwhal last year. They are very skittish and they get very scared. So we always have to turn the engines off of the ships a long far in advance and wait. It is a possibility. That's a big question that I always get asked. And polar bears in the Canadian High Arctic. So wildlife we're always on the search for wildlife. People are on the bridge 24 hours a day with our expedition team on the lookout for wildlife. So the Canadian Arctic is an abundance of adventure. So I highly recommend. There's trips as little as 9 days all the way up to, Ellen, I think you even have like 17, 20-day trips. So it can be as big, as long or as short as your Arctic trip wants to be. So the best time of year to go to the Canadian Arctic is August and September. So thank you so much for letting me share a little bit about the Arctic with you. There's just so much to discover and so many exciting things to see and do there. So thank you for letting me go beyond.
Wow, thank you both, ladies. That was truly amazing, and I really loved how fun and engaging the presentations were, and telling us your stories. It made me dream of being there. And I can't believe your proposal story. Wow, I don't know if I can ever have heard a story, a better proposal than a North Pole.
I know.
That's pretty amazing. I've, so many people I think want to go to the Antarctica, and seventh continent, but equally seeing the polar bears and just understanding how vast the Arctic was. That's really interesting to me, and I hope everyone at home enjoyed as well. So both Quark and Ponant are fantastic partners of ours, and they're both leaders in the exhibition realm, but they are very different products. So we just wanted to, as we come towards the close of this presentation, let the ladies just give you some highlights about the differences between expedition cruising with them both. And then at the end, we'll just wrap up with some Q&As. So if you do have any final questions or burning thoughts, please just write them in the chat. But over to you, Ellen.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kemi. And Carrie, now I'm really eager to go anywhere, guys. It sounds so nice. So I'll just share, I'll make it quick, some things that I want to introduce about Ponant to all of you. So Ponant is celebrating 32 years in business. We're founded in 1988, and we're a French company. We go to all 7 continents. So we offer more than 400 cruises every year, and we visit more than 450 ports of call. Our largest ships are just 260 guests. The majority of our fleet is under 200 guests. So we do a lot of destinations, but always in very intimate small ships. This gentleman here in the suit is our CEO, Jean-Emmanuel Sauvé, and he was a founder of the company in '88. So we're based in Marseille, France. I work for the US office. But the thing that really I said great, I will work for this company, is when I learned about the environmental policy. So we have just recently, last month, we were recognized as the most environmentally friendly international cruise line that sails in Europe. We have joined Green Marine's North American Environmental Certification Program this year, and the only passenger cruise line to do so. The entire Ponant fleet is certified clean by the Bureau Veritas. So that's an international organization that measures the environmental impact of vessels, of airplanes, of laboratories, of a bunch of different categories. And we're quite proud to have purpose-built all of our vessels. And we have 11 ships sailing. We'll have 12. We'll be introducing a 12th ship next year. All of them have been purpose-built to be certified clean. So there's a lot that goes into that, including they're all hybrid electric. We have dynamic positioning, which means that we don't have to drop anchor when we're in these sensitive environments. The wastewater that comes off our vessels is drinkable, truly drinkable by the time it goes back into the ocean. And you know, if you're going to these places, you're motivated to see our beautiful planet. It feels good to know that you're traveling responsibly. So I could spend a whole 40 minutes on this slide alone. We also offset carbon 150% for all of our cruises. So we are carbon negative. So, you know, it's important to consider. So these are our sister ships, which are the majority of our Antarctic expeditions and Arctic expeditions will be on board one of these 4 vessels: Le Boreal, Le Stral, Le Soleil, and Le Lyrial. So they're all just 264 guests, but we cap it at 200 or fewer in Antarctica. So 132 staterooms or suites, and 95% of those have a private balcony. We have 2 restaurants, as well as room service is included anytime. There are 3 lounges, bars. There's a very nice gym. There's a hammam, sauna, and a spa, as well as a heated outdoor pool. And there is, as far as entertainment, there's live music. We have really fantastic musicians. We playing in the lounges throughout the day, and in multiple lounges each evening.
And I do have to say, Ellen, near Le Boreal, there is a show called Mighty Ships. So anyone who's here virtually with us tonight, Barbara Budd, one of our CBC amazing voices, she was the narrator for Mighty Ships. So I love that Le Boreal episode. It was my favorite.
Oh, great. I still haven't seen it.
It got me excited with South Georgia and everything. So if anyone hasn't seen it yet, that's on the line tonight. Please watch it.
You'll stream it tonight.
Yeah.
So at Ponant, we kind of what makes us different than what else is out there is we really are more of a mesh between the expedition and the luxury. So we say we have the expedition hardware and the luxury software. So for expedition hardware, of course, our Zodiacs, which we're using all the time. All the ships are purpose-built for the polar regions. We have world-class naturalists. Generally, we have an open bridge at the captain's discretion, of course. So you're welcome. This photo in the upper left is, that's the captain on the PA, the expedition leader with the binoculars, and just a bunch of guests, travelers we're all making decisions together, I guess. And we provide the parka, your polar parka, and the boots, which Quark does as well. And the luxury software. So elegant, spacious, well-appointed staterooms, 95% private balconies, butler service in the suites, French-inspired cuisine by Ducasse Conceal. So that's Elaine Ducasse, who is a multi-Michelin starred chef, French chef, has a company, Ducasse Council, which is Ducasse Consulting, and they work with us to do our food and our menu. So it's quite good food. I would say French inspired food. It's not super French. It's very good. Room service, 24 hours, as I mentioned. The gym, spa, and luxury partnerships on board. So your toiletries are Hermes, the champagne is included, and it's with Clicquot. So just all these little touches that makes it feel a little bit more special when you're on board. So again, all 4 of these vessels they're truly sister ships. The difference would be the color accent pattern. This is Le Stral. I know it because it has this tan color, and Le Soleil has the blue, but this is the general ambiance of onboard a Ponant ship. So always included on a Ponant cruise, all your meals, gratuities, taxes, open bar, 24-hour room service, butler service in the suites, unlimited Wi-Fi, all of your shore landings, parkas to keep, the boots to use, the pre-night hotel in Buenos Aires and Santiago, and then the charter flight to from Ushuaia. And then because North-South Travel is such an amazing partner and part of Virtuoso Network, we also will, if you book through them, be very happy to offer $250 per person onboard credit, which you could use at the spa, boutique, or on a very fine wine. The wines we serve are quite nice, but you could really go for it. Spend it all in one bottle, laundry service, etc. And I'll finish with this. I took these pictures with my phone. My mom had no idea she was going to be the star of all my presentations moving forward. But I took these with my phone on my last trip because I just thought, this is really this is what it's actually like. So here's a picture of my mom. She's looking out the window, just sitting there. We were, I think, getting ready to go out on the Zodiacs, and she was just having this nice moment, just looking right out at this amazing scenery. You can see the size of the balcony there, and we were in not a high level stateroom. This was like one up from the entry level. The food, of course, is quite nice. And this is a picture of our room service, the hamburger and the wine, which we really took quite a lot of advantage of. So, because we love to sit out there and look at the scenery. So that's us.
Thank you, Ellen. Wonderful. And Cara, over to you.
Great. Thanks, Kemi. Ellen, now you're making me hungry, looking at all that amazing food and cuisine.
It was late where you were.
So with Quark Expeditions, what differentiates us from the rest too is the fact that we only do polar travel. We only do the Arctic and Antarctica. We don't go anywhere else in the world, whereas Ponant goes there and so many other beautiful places on the planet. Quark is uncompromisingly polar. We're specialists in these regions. What sets us apart as well, though, are our adventure options. So I did want to let you know that there's so much included, like the Zodiac cruising, hiking, photography programs, and that infamous polar plunge is included in the program. But it can be as active or as leisure as you'd like. Our minimum age is 8 years old. And then for the more advanced activities, its minimum age is 16. So we have camping on the continent in Antarctica for one night. It was funny because someone actually had their 25th wedding anniversary together, pitching their tent into Antarctica for one night and deciding not to sleep on the ship that night. We also have things like stand-up paddleboarding and sea kayaking, especially in Canada. A lot of travelers love paddling, and so we do have a lot of additional activities, including heli sightseeing, heli hiking, and so it can be again as adventurous or as leisure as you would like a trip to be. There's a little something for everybody. This is our new ship, the Ultramarine. All under 200 passengers is our fleet, so everyone can get off the ship at the same time. Everyone's doing different activities, so it's wonderful that if people want to stay on board, they can and enjoy the things like the spa. But this Ultramarine really is a game-changing ship. She's being built in Croatia as we speak, and she'll be ready in the new year. And the 4 Zodiac disembarkation points is a real highlight to this expedition vessel because we can get everyone off the ship even faster and stepping right into the Zodiac. So we've got spas on board, all outside cabins, but we do have quite a few ships in our fleet. We also have the Ocean Adventurer. So just depending on your type of travel and what your creature comforts are, this expedition vessel is only 132 passengers. So it's a wonderful ship too. I traveled on her to Spitsbergen a year ago, and she's a wonderful, wonderful vessel as well. There's so much to do on board with educational programs, chef prepared meals, snacks, beer and wine with dinners included. But we also have our expedition team that sits with everyone during dinners and lunches on board. And then our high caliber of educational programs with our ornithologists, geologists, biologists. We even have a penguinologist that comes with us to Antarctica. So it's a wonderful on-ship experience. I loved curling up in the library with a glass of wine, grabbing a book on Shackleton, or learning a little bit about a beluga whale that I had maybe seen. And so it's a wonderful on-ship experience as well, even though we're really focused on the off-ship experience. as Ellen was saying too, with North-South travel, Quark Expedition also has some great options and advantages of booking with North-South travel. They're great preferred partners of ours, so you can receive a credit to using the spa or the gift shop. We have a great polar boutique with Arc'teryx gear, which I love. But I can't talk about anything else without talking about sustainability as well. And it's really important, and it's been a part of our DNA for years. So we did come out with our Polar Promise in 2019. So your North-South travel can give you the whole report actually on it. But we have been reducing our footprint and building resilience in these regions. We measure, report, and reduce not only carbon emissions, but even reducing plastics. For the past couple of years, we've reduced and eliminated plastic on our ships. And so we also have a Polar Ambassador program. And that's what I love, because when people travel with us, when they come back into their communities, people can become Polar Ambassadors. So maybe you'll become a Polar Ambassador after traveling with us too, or even now, just watching amazing documentaries while we are home. So thank you so much for letting me say a little bit about Quark Expeditions and who we are. And thank you for joining this travel dreaming series. Let's get back to dreaming. I just love it. This is great.
Thank you both. Thank you, Cara and Ellen, for what is truly awe-inspiring presentations. Nothing makes me happier to be dreaming and thinking and planning and when that trip will be, and knowing I might not know the day that I'm going to go to these regions, but knowing that it's truly on my list. It just seems so unique, so different to anywhere around the world. And thank you for sharing, and your personal experiences too. I really enjoyed them, and I hope everyone at home did. So just to wrap up here, we had a few people submit some questions in advance, and we have a couple on the chat tonight. So firstly, obviously we didn't want to bog down this presentation talking about COVID. I feel like we all know about it day to day, but a great question has come up about when you'll be planning to resume both poles following COVID. And I know that's quite a current question with what's going on.
It's a great question. Because we ended up the beginning of September, we did end up suspending our full Antarctic season. It was something that we just decided. We have 4 pillars of health of safety, and one of them is safe ships, safe passengers, as well as safe crew too. So we did decide to not resume sailing until May 1st of 2021. But because we only do polar travel, we were able to resume in May. But Ellen may have something different with Ponant, especially sailing everywhere in the world, which is great.
Yeah, so as far as polar goes, Antarctica, we have, I think we should be making the official decision any minute now. And so we're expecting a fully revamped 2021 deployment soon. A lot of it has to do with just the government bodies too, and where people are allowed to go. So we're just constantly working on that. Ponant has been sailing since July. So I mentioned we're a French company. A lot of our guests, our guests come from all over, but in general, about 30% of our business comes from Europe, our French-speaking people. So we offered a number of cruises just mostly to start implementing our COVID safe protocols, to get our crew familiar, to make sure that everything is going as we hope that it does. So we had some cruises out of French ports that just that people could drive to. And we've done over 40 departures since July at very reduced capacity. So I mean like 20% of what would normally go onto the vessel. But that's been great because it's helped everybody kind of look and I mean, touch wood a million times, you never know what's going to happen, but no incidents. And so that's been really good but it's hard to say. I mean, I think because both of these companies, the ships are so small, there's going to be different guidelines and different rules than say a big cruise ship. And certainly the rules that are coming out from CLIA and other cruise cruise advisories are going to be different for the smaller ships. But yeah, we'll resume in full as soon as it's safe, both for our guests and our crew and for the places that we visit.
Thank you, ladies. Yeah, that's definitely a true point, because I believe the ban right now is vessels bigger than 250.
Yeah.
Obviously, both of you actually have, but obviously you have to do it when the time's right. But by the sounds of it, you are hoping for Arctic next summer and beyond, and it's probably open for 2022 bookings as well. If not, I know some lines are coming out with 2023 early next year anyway. Moving on, we have someone asked, what does Antarctica circle crossing mean? And I know for sure Cara Quark does that, so perhaps you could help us answer that question.
Yeah, it's a great question. So the lines of longitude and latitude, 66 degrees south is going farther south, which is indeed the Arctic circle is 66 degrees north, and then the Antarctic circle is 66 degrees south. So going fully in the Arctic circle is 66 degrees north, and then with the Antarctic at 66 degrees south. So on the actual peninsula of Antarctica, when Ellen showed her wonderful map of the Antarctic Peninsula, that finger of land that sticks up towards South America, a lot of travelers can go and cross into the Antarctic Circle in January and February in the heart of the summer when the ice is melted enough to go farther south. So more opportunities for landings, more opportunities for wildlife, and going into certain areas and different channels. Great question.
Great, thank you. We have one more Antarctica question. Do all passengers participate in the dry landings at one landing, or are the landings and the participants scattered? Another great question.
So it depends on the like which landing it is. So there's a number of places in Antarctica where you, abiding by the rules, cannot land more than 100 people at a time. So with Ponant, typically what we do is we break the guests up into 4 different groups, and we rotate through, generally sending out like two, the yellow and the green group, and then later the blue and the red group or something. But it's not, it doesn't really feel like you're waiting, because it's more kind of cyclical. And so it depends. And oftentimes we'll send people ashore, and the other people have a Zodiac cruise, and then they'll swap or something like that.
Good, great. One question came through, will I get seasick? I think often people have never cruised, but obviously want to go to the Arctic or Antarctica, and the expedition cruising is really the only and the best way to be exploring. So will I get seasick? That was the question. I think people are a bit nervous sometimes, especially about that Drake passage.
Yeah. So the Drake passage is like, everybody talks it up, for one, because I think we all, we're like, oh, I survived the Drake passage. It gets this like infamous storytelling, because we're all, I don't know, travelers are exaggerating, I think. But yeah, it can either be the Drake Shake or the Drake Lake, as I say. I've crossed it twice. One time it was a bit rough, and the other time it was like completely calm. Depending on the ship that you're on and how fast it goes, you're going to get through the Drake in as little as about 18 hours, or maybe up to 2 days. And your North-South advisor can help you choose, I would say, like, having worked on ships and gone there a few times, book early, get a room that's in the middle of the vessel and as low down as possible, because you think the ship's kind of like moving on a fulcrum. So the closer you are to the middle is going to be the most stable. The Ponant ships have state-of-the-art stabilizers. I think the benefit that you're going to get from going on a small vessel is astronomically larger than the benefit of going on a big cruise ship and looking at Antarctica out your window. It's not even a toss-up at all. I would say I'm somebody who does get seasick, and it's been okay for me. But if you really, really don't want to do it, you could have your advisor talk to Kara and do one of your fly programs, right? Because don't you guys fly across?
Absolutely. So your North-South travel advisor can absolutely share with you itineraries where you fly across the Drake Passage, is exactly what Ellen said. So we go from Punta Arenas, Chile, you fly across the Drake, and it's about a 3-hour flight, landing in Antarctica, and then having your full Antarctic experience and flying back. Because seasickness is a big thing for people, but there are doctors on board vessels, and can help with seasickness medication. But that's one of the things that I love about the Canadian Arctic as well, is because there's 9 and 12-day trips that during the day you're out and maneuvering around, and there's no open sea water days. So that's another advantage if you're thinking, you might not be ready for Antarctica yet because of the seas crossing the Drake Passage. The Arctic is great with so many little nooks and crannies and coves and bays that you don't actually have full sea days on some itineraries in the Arctic, even Spitsbergen.
I'll say too, for the Antarctic, I'm sure you probably found the same, Kara. It's just that one first day to get there. Then you're in protected waters, then you're around the peninsula, and it's not like the whole time you're going to be seasick. There's maybe the one day where if the weather's bad, then it might be a little exciting. But again,
and I love that you said too, once you're there and you're in the coves and the channels, that it's so calm that, and you forget about the seasickness if you do, because I get really bad seasickness. And the moment I saw a penguin, I forgot all about it.
Lovely. Thank you, ladies. That's really helpful. Someone else asked about having to bring polar clothing. Now, I know you both mentioned the parkas, and I believe you actually get them as a take-home gift as well. But what about things like boots and overalls? They're quite big things to take in luggage. So do you have a rental program, or how does it work? Cara?
Yeah, great question, because you want to have your polar gear ready. So we supply parkas. They're yours to keep. They're a great Quark Expedition parka. I even use mine here shoveling my little sidewalk in Toronto. And then we also supply boots, on loan boots for the duration of the voyage. They're Canadian muck boots. But with the $250 polar boutique credit that people can get on board with North-South Travel, you can get waterproof pants and gloves on board, but we do supply the parkas and boots.
Great, thank you. Ellen, is the same or similar?
Yeah, absolutely. We also provide the parka and the boots to use well, and it's all given to you on board, so you don't have to pack it, which is also quite nice. And then we also provide a packing list that really makes sure that you have everything that you need. So you'll have a good list. We have a boutique you can order things through online, and of course we provide gear in the boutique on board in case you forget something. But you'll definitely want to be going through that list pretty thoroughly. With whoever you travel with will provide a packing list to make sure that you have everything you need.
No, great, fantastic. And just the last couple of questions are just very likely to touch about pricing. Someone had asked here, what's kind of the lowest starting price that you offer? Because I think sometimes people, of course, it's a bucket list trip, and to operate and to the sustainability you guys talked about earlier, by the way, it's obviously climate change is very real, and it's really great to see you both being such amazing leaders in making sure that you're traveling and your vessel is as responsible as it can be. Because that's sometimes the price, people can be overwhelmed by that. So what's the kind of, I know it must range because you have different durations, different regions cost different amounts, but what's the kind of lowest starting point you've kind of seen for one of your shorter voyages, perhaps? Perhaps you could both just run us through a couple of examples.
Sure, I'll jump in with Ponant. So let's just take our 10-day Antarctic Peninsula, includes the flight to Buenos Aires to Ushuaia, the pre-night, and the whole cruise. And then, as I listed earlier, all of those inclusions. If you book it early and you're in maybe one of the entry-level staterooms, the lowest I've seen it is just about $10,000 per person US. So it's 10 nights, 11 days. If you would like a suite, I'm sure North-South would love to help you book an owner's suite, or like something quite one of the higher category cabins. That's going to be for, again, that 10-day itinerary. Let's say we're looking at one of the higher level suites, probably right or 20 to maybe about 20,000 per person for the whole itinerary. I showed you some pictures of the room that I was in with when I took my mom. Obviously, I work for the company, so we just ran on at the last minute, to be honest. But that room, I think, on average, would sell for about $14,000 per person.
Okay, US. That's helpful. Thank you, Cara.
Yeah, great questions, because with the Ultramarine, our new ship too, because our prices vary so much, but for Antarctica, for an 11-day trip, currently you can, for about 11,500 per person, including helicopter sightseeing tours and your landings and your meals and taxes and port charges. And then for the Arctic, a 7-day Spitsbergen trip in an Explorer Suite, same type of cabin category, 5,400 US per person. So it just depends on the length of trip and the ship.
Yeah.
And the cabin category, as Ellen said. And then they can range up to, you know, a 23-day epic Antarctic trip owner suite for around 33,000. So it just depends what
Yeah.
someone's looking for.
Absolutely. Great. Thank you. And then the last question I have is, one of our clients said, I'm a single. Do you offer a solo supplement? Because we know that can be, typically cruises are based on double occupancy, and we have quite a lot of solo travelers at North South in our clients. So do you ever offer solo supplements?
Yeah, Ponant has great deals for solo travelers, and this is why it's so pays to work with an agent, because they know all of the best ways to look at them and find them. And they can send you a link to our website. Again, we go to all 7 continents. Right now we have over 70 departures with 0 single supplement. So that's across all destinations. And that includes some in Antarctica for the 21-22 season for some departures. So that's, you know, you can get a special, and you could book the room that normally would have, we don't have special single rooms or anything, but you would book the stateroom that normally 2 people would be in for yourself for no additional charge if you book early. And it takes a little bit of planning, and I'm sure your advisor would be really happy to help you find the cruise that works for you. Otherwise, in general, our single rates are about 1.3 times the double, 1.3 to 1.6, depending on the itinerary and how much capacity is left.
Great. Still great to know, because some cruise lines are still doing the double and there is nothing and it's 200%. And that can get really challenging sometimes.
Yeah.
Cara, do you ever offer single supplements?
What's really great is over the years, we've had so many inquiries where someone can't find someone to go with them to these really remote destinations. So we actually have solo cabins outside, beautiful cabins with panoramic views. So for instance, our ultramarine, we have designated solo cabins. Our Ocean Diamond ship has designated cabins, so that there isn't a need for the single supplement, because they're great solo price for gorgeous cabins.
Great. Fantastic. Wow, that's it. We went slightly over, but hopefully everyone enjoyed the quick Q&A at the end as well. So I would just like to thank you both, Cara and Ellen, for an amazing, insightful, educational, fun, inspiring evening tonight. And I'd love to thank, again, on behalf of the entire team at North South Travel, thank you to our clients for joining in from home. And we hope to help you again and keep the travel dreams alive. And we look forward to sharing some future travel dreaming events with you. But thank you to Cara and Ellen for a great night, and take care, everyone, and stay well.
Thank you. What a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Thank you
So much. Getting some thanks coming through now.
Oh, nice.